Welcome to this webinar on OasisNXT. My name's Jody. Today I'll go through a section of OasisNXT. OasisNXT is the latest fitting software from Bernafon, and you'll need it to program the Zerena hearing instruments. You'll see that OasisNXT has a brand new, fresher, more modern look about it, and the flow's really streamlined, which is fantastic. I'm going to access OasisNXT through the standalone version. However, you can access it through Noah as well if you want to. In this module, I'm going to cover the client data and hearing instrument selection sections. Okay, so I've opened up OasisNXT, just the standalone version this time. I've selected my client, and now I'm going to start a new fitting. You can see that the main navigation is down the left-hand side of the page. We can expand or contract any of these menu items. So the menu items are Client, Hearing Instrument, Fitting, Features, and End Session. And if you expand these, then there are sub-menus under each major menu. So for Fitting, we have these sub-menus. For Features, and for End Session. In this module, we'll be looking at Client. When you first come into OasisNXT for a first fitting, it will always open up at the Client Personal Data screen. You can see here the client information, and whatever information you have put into your client when first creating it in the standalone version, or the information that you've put in Noah, that will come into this area here. We have client language as well, and you should be familiar with client language. When you're using now Nonlinear 2, we know that the target gain prescribed by now Nonlinear 2 has a tonal or a non-tonal language influence. So it's particularly important that if you're dealing with a tonal language that you select it here. All we need to do, let's go down and find a tonal language. So here's Chinese. We just select it, and it is now the language that OasisNXT will use when using Nonlinear 2. I'm going to select none for the moment. And here we have the fitting rationale that you'll use just for this fitting. Now in Preferences, we can change it so that as soon as you start up a new fitting, it will default to the rationale of your choice. But when you first get the software, it will always default to Bernafon Nonlinear. If you want to change it in Preferences, let's have a look at that. We go to Tools, Preferences, and then Fitting Defaults. And we can select a rationale for adults, and an adult is anyone who is 17 years and older, or we can select a rationale for children. OasisNXT will have a look at the age of the client, and then have a look to see what you have selected as your rationales, and will apply that rationale as the default. When we close out of Preferences, we don't have to save it. As soon as you click on Close, it will save automatically. For this presentation, I'm going to use now Nonlinear 2. Our next sub-menu is Audiogram. Here we can change the measurement method. We have a choice of pure tone, ABR, or some other objective test, and test signal transducer. So we can use headphones, insert earphone, or free field. When you change these, you won't actually see a difference in the audiogram in this display here. However, OasisNXT will use that information, and the targets will be adjusted accordingly. And now we'll look at the RealEar data. So we have RECD and REUG. Down the bottom we have the default values, but we can put some information in if we want to. So let's just put some random information in there. And you can see that as soon as some information, some data has been inputted, then this control becomes available. So this allows us to swap between the measured values and the predicted values. We can also copy the values from one ear to the other. We can turn them on and off individually. And we can also import any information from NOAA. So if you have done an RECD measurement, that information goes into NOAA and then you can import it into OasisNXT. Similarly with REUG. We have our predicted values and then we can put some information in here and the control becomes active. When you have REUG, you can also say whether your client was sitting directly in front of the speaker or at an angle of 45 degrees. And once again, you can import the information from NOAA. Moving on to our hearing instrument selection. So in this screen, we can simulate a fitting. And it's a really good idea to have a look at this when you're not sure if the device is going to be suitable for the hearing loss. So we can have a look at the different technology levels. And here we have the 3 different styles that are available. If I select the mini right and it's grey, then that indicates that I have selected a mini right for both ears. But I might want to have a mini right T on one ear and a BTE on the other. I can also do that. So let's select the BTE for the right ear, and I'll select the mini right T for the left ear. So by simply clicking on these icons, I can select which device is for which ear. As I said previously, if I click in the middle and it's grey, then I have selected the same device for each ear. So I want the BTE on the right and the mini right T on the left. You would have noticed that when I selected some instruments, this acoustical display became available. This acoustical display is new to OasisNXT, and it's a fantastic way of us being able to access the acoustics no matter where we are in the software. If I want to hide it, I simply click on the arrow. This is giving me a warning because I am fitting a high-powered instrument. To get rid of that, I just simply select the cross at on the right-hand side. And if I want to access the acoustical display, no matter where I am in the software, all I need to do is select this little drop arrow or this little drop arrow and it will open up. Now, normally when we have a look at fitting ranges, we can see this display. This is very typical, but we need to remember that this display doesn't take the rationale into account and it doesn't take the acoustics into account. So it's a really good idea to have a look at the acoustical display to make sure that this hearing instrument is going to be suitable for the loss. But let's take it a step further. We can adjust this display to give us more information. This is what we're used to seeing, this type of fitting range with the thresholds in there. But I can change it to 2 other displays. We'll go to Tools, Preferences. Just hide this for a second, and here in Display, if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, I have Graph View in Acoustics, and my choices are Insertion Gain, In Situ SPL, or Fitting Range with HTL Audiogram, and this is what we're used to seeing. For the moment, I'm going to choose Insertion Gain. And let's show the acoustical display again. So now I have a lot more information. I have the range, fitting range of the hearing instrument. This darker grey is my predicted feedback margin. I also have my targets for the 50 curve, the 65 curve, and the 80 curve. And I have my simulated gain. I can see a number of things here. I can see that in order to achieve the 50 curve, I'm going to be pushing the limits of the feedback manager here. And I might, with these particular acoustical options, I might have problems with feedback. I can also see that my simulated gain isn't reaching the targets. And in the next module, when we're talking about fittings, we'll be discussing adaptation. What this is showing me is that at the moment, the adaptation manager isn't on 100% because I haven't changed the gain at all, I know that, and they're not reaching the targets. So therefore, it's not on 100% as yet. So this is actually giving me some really good information about whether this is suitable or not. Do I actually need to change my acoustics? Should I have something that's more occluded? Quite possibly. Let's have a look at the other graph. Back into Preferences, scroll down to the bottom. This time I'll choose In Situ SPL, close that. And now I have some information about my MPO. So I have my simulated MPO target and my simulated MPO curve. And I can see that at the moment, there's no way that I would achieve the target because it's out of the range of the hearing aid. Now, that might not concern me. I might be quite happy to have limited MPO in the high frequencies. But at least by looking at the display with In Situ SPL, I can make an educated decision about whether I still want to go ahead. If we go back to HTL in audiogram, then I would look at that and say, yep, absolutely. This hearing instrument with these current acoustics would have plenty of gain for my client. But if I look with the other displays, I might question that decision. Our recommendation is actually to use the In Situ SPL graph so that you can see your targets for the 50, the 65 and the 80 curves, but you can also see the simulated curves for the MPO as well. The other thing that we can see here is the recommended acoustics. So this large red target or blue target indicates that this is what OasisNXT is recommending. We do have some other choices, but you can see that there's no target there. So that's indicating that yes, absolutely, you can select this for your client, but it's not the recommendation. That completes this module on OasisNXT. We have 4 modules in the series. Module 1 showing client data and hearing instrument selection. Module 2 fitting Zerena hearing instruments. Module 3 feature selection in Zerena hearing instruments. And Module 4 save and exit with Zerena hearing instruments. If you would like to have a look at any of these, feel free